Hey, CityCast listeners. The sound of Houston hip-hop was crafted in the 90s, shifting rappers like ESG, Fat Pat, and Big Pokey into Houston legends. But the music that seems like a soundtrack to the city couldn't be crafted without the producers behind the beats. Today, I'm talking to one of the heavy hitters of Houston music production, the man behind the music, Sean Solo Jemison. It's Wednesday, January 18th, 2023. I'm Carleon Jones, and this is CityCast Houston. So I want to start with getting into how did you start in music production?
I was in college in Louisiana, and I always liked keyboards or whatever, but started playing around. I met ESG. He went to same college as I did, and we got together. I just started making beats. So, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just putting sounds together, and from there, we made a record, and that record became really popular with the song "Swinging and Banging," and I guess I became a producer then.
Houston has a particular sound. Like, we have the chopped and screwed music. We have freestyling on beats for like 6 minutes at a time, and then we'll release it as a full song.
Right.
So how did Houston create that vibe that we have with music? And then also, how does Houston differ from East Coast and West Coast music?
We differ a lot, and then we're alike in the same way. We pretty much rap about our culture. I guess the freestyling came in. I could say, part of the slab culture, I guess, came with freestyling over the screw beats at Screw Shop. With DJ Screw. And, guys just freestyling over instrumentals while Screw was on the turntables, kind of like develop into a culture. And as far as our similarities with East Coast, we still flow a lot. You know what I'm saying? They have the same type of vibe or whatever. It's just that our music is generally slower than the East Coast vibe and more melodic as well.
You made a lot of beats for classic hip hop records in Houston. Drake even called your beats the heartbeat of the city. But when newer producers coming in now, how do you think making music has changed from when you started?
Well, the process is easier for sure. With DAWs and plugins and software, it makes it more easier for a producer to make a beat quicker with less thought. But then at the same time, they still have the same creative process. So it's like, I'm not one of them OGs like, man, no, the younger guys ain't doing it. Like, no, they still have to, put sounds together and be creative in their process. So, it's different, but it's still the same.
Mm-hmm. You've also worked with Fat Pat, Big Pokey, ESG, who you mentioned earlier, all who were a part of the Screwed Up Clique. Were you a member yourself? And what was that relationship like for you?
I don't know if I was a member, but I would definitely say the sound cultivated around my sound. Mm-hmm. I was one of the original producers of that sound. Like after the ESG record, kind of like the sound blossomed into more melodic, more singing on hooks, more different style. I would say, it's my sound or whatever. And I still do the same thing today. I just updated it.
Kind of just remix what you've been doing to keep it flowing, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. I also, I think that the music comes around. Like you see, like the big artists today, they're still doing a little bit, trap, but they're also bringing more of the older sound back in. They're just redeveloping and, fine tuning that sound.
Yeah, because a lot of people are using samples nowadays. Like, that's a huge thing because I feel like old school music kind of draws people in more than newer sounds,
Right. It'll never go away. That style, even that's why like people like, I'm going to stick to what I do because it always comes back around. Like, I'm getting hit by major artists in San Francisco and stuff like that, like for my sound. So I'm never going to try to force myself to do something else because I just can't feel it. I love what they do, but I just can't feel that vibe like when I'm creating.
Yeah. You produced the beat for Hell Yeah by Drake and Lil Wayne though, right?
Yeah, we had received a call from Drake's people asking to use the swinging and banging song.
Mhm.
When it happened, ESG had called me, was like, "Hey man, you need to listen to this or whatever."
Mhm.
And it came on. I'm like, "Oh man, okay." And then Lil Wayne's verse came on as well. We were like, "Oh man, this is crazy." And
Mhm.
of course, we signed off on it or whatever. It had nice little money attached to it, and from there it was
Mhm.
on. I mean, that song was like really huge, and still today, reaping from that song.
Yeah, that song was huge, like, and it had that Houston feel to it, but I never realized it, like, until because I'm a little younger, so I
Right.
didn't realize it until until after the fact that this was, like, literally a sample from Houston, like, yeah, so that's super dope. So, out of all the records you've done, what experience in the studio was the most memorable for you?
Man, I've had quite a few memorable experiences. I must say, like like creativity wise or whatever, I'm always amazed when I'm working with Zero.
Mhm.
He's got to be one of the dopest that I see like work. Um,
Mhm.
like personally, but I mean, I've worked with so many people. I mean, I still have fun in there. It's like I enjoy every moment in the studio. I feel like it's a blessing that people are working with
Mhm.
me still. So I can't just pinpoint one, but I know like there are always special moments when I'm working with Zero.
One thing that I've noticed about Houston is that, like, we have some major talent here,
Right.
but what seems to happen is that we don't get to branch out into the major markets like how other cities do. Why do you think that is exactly?
I mean, you only do what you see. So if
Mhm.
you're not able to move around and get outside of this bubble that we live in, and you're going to be stuck doing the same thing. There needs to be
Mhm.
more opportunities for artists to tell their story and tell their process, and so that can get
Mhm.
out to more markets and get more exposure to the artists. So with that being said, like Houston has always been in a bubble.
Mhm.
You just got to do more things to exposure, and then also do more things than just music. I think it's starting to get there, but it's still a slow process.
Yeah, more things like TV, podcasting, just like tap into different markets basically.
Movies, I mean, it's all kind of stuff out there, like animation,
Mhm.
cartoon, all kind of things that we could be doing.
You mentioned animation. So I heard that you created your own cartoon also. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Right, right. I have something I'm working on, based around my daughter. It's called Clever Clover.
Mhm.
It's more of like an educational thing. Um,
Mhm.
Still in the process of that, developing it right now. It's a slow process, but it definitely, I don't want to put anything out there that is not, standard
Mhm.
or above standard. So it's coming though. It's going to be amazing, and more learning through hip hop.
Okay, so it has a musical aspect to it.
Right, right, right. Definitely has, got to be music based coming from me.
Yeah. Mhm.
But yeah, so, yeah. So we got multiracial characters.
I love that.
We're gonna reach all the audience, but
Mhm.
it's definitely surrounded by by learning through like hip hop. So it's gonna be nice.
And is it set in Houston or anything like that?
Yes, it's in Houston. Houston theme.
Mhm.
It'll have the Houston, setting for the characters.
That's really cool. And then also something I seen that you were working on was doing online classes on how to actually be a music producer and like how to produce beats and everything like that. Is that something you're still working on?
Right, right. I'm definitely working on the curriculum right now, getting that straight and building the
Mhm.
website for it. The people that I started with was just really off the cuff, and I was like, you know, I saw that there was a need for it, and
Mhm.
that kind of like sparked the interest in doing it.
Mhm. And this stretches way beyond Houston, right? This is something that other people from other states can get involved in if they want to, right?
Right, right. The first guy that hit me, he was in Chicago. He was like, I just did a little class with him, and he's been back 3 times already. And I had another guy call me from Denmark, or message me from Denmark,
Mm, wow.
and I did a class with him as well. So it's like this is really way beyond Houston, and that's what that's what the desire to tap into.
Do you hear that music? That means that this is an ad. It is an ad that is reaching some of the smartest, funniest, most exciting human beings in the city of Houston and its surrounding areas. And you know what? If your business had bought this ad, if your cause had bought this ad, then you would be reaching those people. Why don't you try buying ad space with us here at CityCast Houston? If you're interested, email us. We're at ads@citycast.fm.
What advice would you give to other upcoming producers, maybe in the Houston market, maybe outside of the Houston market, that want to make an impact like you did?
I would say make sure they have something to fall back on, because I always worked, I always had a job. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like even in the highest of my career, I always went to work. So it was like there was no pressure for me to sell beats or make hits or whatever, because I already knew that the bills were going to get paid. Like most of these producers or whatever, like they get to a certain age where they're like, the phone might not be ringing, but they invested all their life into this music. Now they're stuck sitting around with nothing to, so it's not fun anymore. So that's why like a lot of people look at me, he's still having fun, because it is what it is. I'm not going to be, out here looking crazy if my music doesn't sell. But luckily, thank God, it still is. So I think part of it is because, I'm not stressed.
I love that advice, because it's like that's something I've never heard really people give advice about, but that's great. So it's like you never have to stop being creative because you still have that balance. You don't have to stress out about what you're doing. I love that.
Yeah. People, they don't like to admit that, you know what I'm saying? Like they think that's uncool or whatever, but me, I always was a go-getter on a different way. Like, I'm going to be honest with these kids. Don't put it all into that, because you never know. When it hits, it's good, but if it doesn't hit, then what you going to do?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, thank you for being on CityCast Houston today. It was great talking to you.
No, I appreciate it.
That was Sean Solo Jemison. Now I'm here with producer AK Almoman. AK, what else is going on around Houston today?
Hey, Carly. I've got such a cool story to share today. So I believe the housing market is about to get a real shakeup. I've been reading about how this design firm called Hannah teamed up with a few other companies, including a local Houston construction company, to offer people a chance to live in a 3D printed house. This could potentially help minimize labor shortages and build homes that could hold up in a natural disaster. The project will take about 2 years to build. It's going to be a 4,000 square foot, 2-story single family home. It's essentially an experiment to see what works and what doesn't, to try out different crazy ideas and push the machines for their maximum effort. Honestly, it's wild to think we live in a time where this is in the works. But there's one big question on my mind that I'm going to keep a lookout for. Could 3D printing, if improved in the future, be used at a mass scale with lower material costs, faster build times, and can it afford laborers a safer environment while meeting their continued efforts for better work compensation? I don't know. We'll have to see, but I'm definitely going to keep following this story.
That's it for our show today here at CityCast Houston. If you haven't already, make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram at CityCast Houston. And while you're at it, sign up for our newsletter, Hey Houston. It's houston.citycast.fm/newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow with another great episode. But until then, have a great day, and I'll see you on the flip side. Yes, I could not think this morning.